What time did you get home?
I left last night, so I
Okay.
like 10.
Yeah.
I just like when I left the ending, I was like, oh, I kind of don't feel great. Like, I'll just go home. So that
I
was
know. It seemed like a theme. I'm wondering if we're all going to be sick in a week.
and let's hope not. But all good.
All right. So here's how we're going to go. I got somewhat of like some line items to talk about, and um, if you guys are watching live, a lot of people probably listen to the podcast or watch the video after the fact. But if you are watching live and you have either a statement about something that happened or was launched, or a question about something that happened or was launched, then we'll just talk about it here. But we'll kind of go like, we'll hit the highlights. Um, Let me grab hold on one second.
First of all, I just want to say I'm uber impressed when you said, hey, let's do a real rise recap. I'm like, all right, who's gonna care or what? But we have people on here. So
People care.
I love the love for the company. How great is that?
100%. 100%. Well, so I guess let's talk 30,000 feet, Spring. Like what was your overall feel being there? Like the vibe, the venue, the connections, the like what were your thoughts?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy because we were some of the original OGs. Like
Hmm.
I was agent 2000 at the company. And now we're at 22,000. So going from the first rise in San Antonio to the second one in San Diego, all my memories popping up on Facebook for this week, same
Yeah,
week.
because it was like exactly a year ago. Me too.
Yeah, to this, I was like, wow, we are just really like evolving as a company. And
Yeah.
it was really cool to see. I thought the venue was pretty rad, like the vibe of
Yeah.
it was cool. Real always just does a fantastic job. Like the one thing I think that Real has over every other brokerage, truthfully, is their marketing department is fantastic. And so Dre and her team did a really great job of the event itself was really well put together and the vibe was just like on point, you know.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I mean, so the thing, full disclosure, that I dropped the ball on by I mean Spring and I, um, San Diego was so custom made for us to do something rad. Like, I think one thing, if I have a regret for this week, it's there just wasn't a pre-baked, like in San Diego, for those of you who weren't there, Spring and I and Amy rented a yacht. And it was like, it was just so easy to go like, all right, cool, we're just gonna rent a yacht. And then there were like 400 people on the stupid thing. And it was
Yeah.
like, it was such a rad thing that we did. And as we were talking about Vegas, it was like, and I live here. I'm like, there's just not a pre-baked, like, we're not going to rent out a nightclub. And just that's just not our vibe anyways. And so I I wish we would have done something that kind of just more intimate and for the people that we serve, but at the same time there just wasn't like a clear cut like, oh man, we're in Vegas, let's just do this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think retrospect, the lesson that you and I learned on this is we will do a pre-baked something, but probably
Right.
something of value. Like we talked about the day before moving forward, we'll probably do our own mastermind or event and with our people, because that was the biggest question I got asked is like, hey, is there anything specific for our crew? And to your point, I think Real, in our defense, Real wasn't very public about what the schedule was either,
Right.
though, to be able to
Right.
be like, yeah, we can on Monday night have a party. Does that make sense? Or whatnot? Like we were trying just not to conflict with what they had. But retrospect, I think the day before we should do a lunch and a mastermind or just something cool. And to your point, you and I just aren't partiers. So it's not we're not going to rent out a nightclub most likely, or maybe we'll for all of you, but it just wasn't
Yeah.
the vibe to go to Vegas and rent it out. So next year we'll
Next year we're
do
doing
something
some.
cool. We'll do something
I
cool.
am I am very underratedly boring. Like I don't think people realize what a boring human being I am. But so let's talk really quick before we get into announcements, Spring. You and I, a big topic of what we talked about. So those of you who may not be aware, Spring and I serve on somewhat of an advisory committee with the company. We have for the last 3 years. There's a group of individuals now. There's probably 40 people at the company that are quote unquote growth ambassadors. And so a lot of times, not to sound stupid, but like we'll kind of know what's coming before it's coming. We'll get heads up like, hey guys, we're doing this, we're doing that. We need your feedback. We need your beta testing. And so we, one of the topics that Tamir brought up is that revenue share from attraction is an opportunity, and that's part of the benefits of attraction. But continued revenue share comes with the requirement of support. And so, give me some of your thoughts on support versus siloing, because we have to be able to differentiate, right? One of the challenges that some similar concepts have had is when you have a world in which I'm able to look on this call and be like, well, Tracy Barber's my guy, Derek Patrice is my guy. Like I just, these are people who trust me to help them, but
Yeah.
I can't just get tribal and be like, if you're not in my sponsorship world, I'm out. And so it's like, how do we differentiate like, okay, cool. Well, here's the support we're offering the people who've given us their trust and allegiance,
Yeah.
and not be tribal and siloed.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I have my own opinions. We all know that. That's why you're calling on me about this. But here's the thing. I think it's an interesting point because if you think about it, like a traditional brokerage model is and I'm just going to use KW as an example because that's where I came from, right? You join KW, you have a broker, you have a team leader, you have an MCA, you have a front desk person. So when there's a question, you go to corporate staff or staff there. Well, in this model, like you have support, which is AI, which we'll talk about, or the human element, and you have your broker. But like for the actual like help growing your business and all of that stuff, there isn't that person. And that's what they're referring to is a little bit like, you got to support who you're bringing in. And the reason I said I have an opinion on this is because it's really hard to say, well, here's how I support you. The analogy I gave Joe was like when we all take a listing or we work with a buyer, we outline what that looks like to work with us. I sit down with you in my buyer consultation and I say, hey, when you hire me, this is what this looks like. This is how I'm going to communicate with you. This is how it looks to work with my team. This is what you can expect. This is what I'm going to make. And to your point, Joe, we've strayed away from that because you can't have a silo and you can't put some structure to it. But that conversation, I think, has made us be like, okay, we're not going to go create something that we can't, that is like you're with us or you're with them. But we are going to start creating something that's like, hey, if you're in our world, this is how we can support you. Yeah. And here's the structure to it. And this is how you guys can plug into it. And we want to help you grow, because I think a huge aha for you and I there, and I think most people there, we were like, holy shit, like this company will double in size in the next year, guaranteed. There's massive migration in the real estate space, period, the end, like in every brand. So it has nothing even just to do with real. And we are crazy if we don't capitalize, especially on everything that came out at One Real or at Rise.
Yeah.
Like it's going to happen. So you and I and a few of us are going to sit down and say, here's how we can support you and how you guys can leverage what we're doing to support the people that you're bringing in. And some of that is going to even be some structured calls around attraction, because a lot of you guys want to grow your revenue share and simply might not even know how, or even have the conversation. I'm very long-winded. I have one more thing to say on this. Woman come up to me, I have a really great relationship with. She's in my line one. I talk to her all the time. And she was talking about attraction and she's having a hard time getting him over the fence. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you just bring me in that conversation? I'm happy to like help. And she's like, oh, I didn't know that was an option. Like, yeah, so I need to get better about being like, no, dude, I actually spend 90% of my days on attraction calls. Like, use me. And so that's what we're going to do, is put a little bit more structure of helping you guys grow it, because I have people in my organization. So do you, Joe. Like RAV Share pays their car payment. It's freaking rad, you know, or pays their house payment, or is the extra. I have a girl named, I don't think she's on here, and she's okay if I say this because she posted it on Instagram. I taught her, I'm like, your revenue share you make each month, go back and invest it in the S&P 500. And so she posted that she was investing her $580 in the S&P. And she's like, I'm gonna utilize this to grow my wealth. So that's what we want to create for all of you guys.
100%. Spring, have you ever seen the movie Family Man with Nick Cage?
I'm sure I have, but no, yes, I
Has
don't know.
anybody out there seen it? Just give me a thumbs up or hand wave a couple. Great Christmas movie. So here's the premise of it. Nick Cage builds this life for himself, wakes up. He broke up with a girl at like the genesis of his career, wakes up and he's married to her. He's in hell basically. And then he's just like, oh my gosh, I love this woman. I love this children. I love the life I built. And then now the movie's more than 10 years old. So if you haven't watched it, it's your fault. And then he wakes up again and he's like, oh crap, I now need to build that world. I bring that up because I'm like, guys, there's 22,000 people at this company, and I don't care what part of the country you're in. I don't care who your sponsorship world is. Like Spring and I are here to help you guys grow, even if you're not in our family tree.
Totes.
But I hope we're all waking up today going like, okay, to Spring's point, 44,000 is going to happen, and then 60,000. And then once we get to 70 or 80,000, we're going to get into this churn ecosystem where it's like, you're not going to go from 80 to 160, but you're going to have 30% turnover every year because that's just what happens, especially at big companies. But like, if you're waking up right now going like, man, maybe I missed the boat, because I think we both felt that from a lot of our people that were like, dude, I was in Dallas and this thing was rinky dink. And then I was in San Diego and it was like big. And then all of a sudden we're in a freaking concert venue. And it was like Monk was up there speaking. And like, you're just like, this is big. This is huge. I hope everybody's waking up realizing like it's not too late. And so here's a realization I had, and I told this to Spring. I've spoken to a lot of you or spoken for a lot of you on agent attraction. And I'm just fully going to tell you the mistake I made is I would talk about this really big world of what agent attraction could be. I'm like, Derek, bro, you can go get a brokerage and you could get 50 people, and then that 50 can turn into 100, and that 100 can turn. And I've just made it so big that I've seen a lot of the people we've worked with. The only analogy I could use is the elephant one, like just try to take down an elephant. And then when it doesn't happen, they're like, all right, cool. I guess I might as well not try. Mm-hmm. And the thought Spring and I had is, imagine if we could help people build a roadmap in which it's like, if you just focus on one bite at a time, like one agent at a time coming into your world, some of you, by virtue of focusing small, are going to experience huge. But if everybody focuses on huge, it becomes so discouraging, because a lot of you can get a conversation with a broker that has 80 agents. A lot of you can make that happen. Oh my gosh, I'm going to get Spring on the phone. And then Spring does her best, and you guys have a call, and they're like, you know what, man, we're cool. We're just going to stay where we're at. And then the problem is everybody's like, all right, cool. I guess I tried. And I'm like, Joe, that's your fault for making it seem like that's the definition of success. I love where Spring started, which is, what if everyone on this call, if you were starting from scratch, by October 2025, we're able to say like, I drive a pretty sweet Lexus SUV, and it's given to me by my real estate brokerage because I make $1,100 a month and it just pays my car payment. Like, that's so attainable for every single human being, either watching this live or listening to this on a podcast or watching a YouTube video. Like, dude, you can do that. That's not hard. And then out of that may come like, wow, I set my sights on 8 agents over 12 months and I ended up at 15 or 20. Like, you may have a couple of things that go really right. Just so you guys know, if you're able to get 20 people in your world, 15 people in your world, I mean, that's $30,000 to $50,000 a year. And that's not like world beating. That's just like, an agent every other month, sometimes once a month, sometimes 3 come over that are friends. And so Spring, I think that was an aha moment for me. And we're going to get into all the announcements, but was just like, Joe, you have to bring this down to a digestible level of just go find a friend or 2. Because here's the other truth, guys. Somewhere between 30 to 50% of every agent in your marketplace or any marketplace you know of changes brokerages every year.
Every year. So here's the thing. And then let's dive in. I think why we're so passionate about this is because it's changed our lives. But
Mhm.
I think where I can feel like I can have this conversation is because the company is so much more than revenue share. It makes it easy to have the conversation because of all the things we're going to talk about here in just a minute. Like, so it's not a weird conversation of like, hey, do you want to join? Like, I'm going to make revenue share. It's like, oh my gosh, have you ever heard about Real because of, and then let's talk about this because that
Yeah.
there, like the way that I look at it is as a real estate agent, you have to hang your license somewhere. So you might as well hang it somewhere that gives you a stock matching program, that you have a revenue share that has the AI, that has the financial component of which we'll dive into, that has the training, like that has the great marketing. So all of these things that like we'll talk about, but it really is going to be the forefront brokerage. And so the revenue share is just kind of the extra that you get for helping grow it. And I think the point that we're trying to make right here before we dive in is we're here to help you guys. So
Yeah.
if you want to do some type of revenue share, watch in the next week, you're going to see an email come out from all of us that we're going to get on a Zoom. We're going to talk about the structure, the support we're going to put behind some things, and then also how we can help you grow. So.
And you're seeing the company shift the exact way we're shifting. I had a conversation with Sharon before this whole event started. So there's this dark narrative out there. I don't even know what the dark web is, but let's just say on the dark real estate web, there's a narrative that if you want to be a TikToker, you go to Real. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you go to KW or EXP or wherever. And that is a narrative that we all have to work really hard to change. And that's something that Spring and I are super passionate about. And if you watched the Real conference, you know, Sharon used the word entrepreneur like 1 billion times, because I even said to Sharon, I was like, dude, we need to control this narrative and make sure that people understand, like, there are some gnarly entrepreneurs at Real. And there are some people who are obsessed with making YouTube videos and TikToks and recruiting people because they make YouTube videos and TikToks. That's not Spring and I. Do we have YouTube videos? Do we have TikToks? Sure. But we are hardcore entrepreneurs. And so that is something we want to make sure that when you are talking to people who are interested in creating an entrepreneurial enterprise that creates income and eventually creates wealth, we are their place. No one has to come here and buy crazy tennis shoes. Nobody has to start dressing like a hip hop dancer when they're 55 years old. Like, you don't have to do those things. You need to come and build a business that allows you to feed your family and create wealth. And with that, Spring, let's talk about Real Wallet. I have here, hot off the presses. I don't know how you didn't get yours.
It's turned around over, but like, how did you get one? And
oh, it is upside down. Here we go. There we go.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the Real Visa debit card. My team and I are beta testers of the Real Wallet, and it's a super cool ecosystem. Before I get too deep into it, Spring, or if any of you guys want to raise your hand and you had some thoughts on it, what are your thoughts on this, Spring? Because many people don't know, or not everyone knows this, but Spring's husband owns a tech company in the real estate space. And a big reason why we came to Real, Taylor and I, the revenue share, to be honest, our initial entry into this company was not revenue share based, it was stock based. We were like, I want to acquire stock in a company that's going to grow. So as a very, very immature investor, I was like, to me, it seems like Real's valuation has to be based on something other than we have agents and now we have more agents and now we have more agents. I'm like, because agent count comes and goes. And so as we started to learn about the technology that the company was building, I then as a amateur investor was like, all right, cool. Well, that's a tangible asset that the company can hang its hat on, is intellectual property, technology developed and owned by the company. And now beyond just an application, we're now getting into the fintech business. Like when you talk to Tamir about Real, he's like, what if you don't think about Real as a brokerage? What if you think about it as a ecosystem, an entrepreneurial ecosystem that leverages real estate? Yes, but through real estate, title, mortgage, and now this fintech piece is creating profitability. And I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. So I did come to the company for RAV Share. So that's where you are different. But the stock is really cool and it's been great. So is interesting because when the concept was first initially launched, maybe 2 years ago to us, it was like, yeah, that could be cool.
The fintech piece.
Yeah. And the way
Yeah.
that it was launched to us was like, hey, we have hundreds of millions of dollars that come through our ecosystem that it's sitting there, all of that. And what if we could help provide an opportunity for you guys as our partners to use that money to help you grow your wealth? And so the idea was tossed out there of like, of that creating the real wallet that you could, that the company based off of your transactional, your RAV share, what you have in stock, that they could loan you the money for things that you'd want. And there's a point system and all of this. And I don't understand it all. You're the beta tester. But it was a really cool concept. And we were like, well, yeah, I mean, of course, like we would love to help real, because real is like, how can we create extra income for real? Because believe it or not, brokerages don't really make any money. Like
Neither do
real
teams, if you ask
estate,
me, but
yeah, a real estate brokerage is not the end all be all. Like we're gonna
yeah.
make less money. So they have to look at how else they can make money. And so when it originally was Rob was like, yeah, cool. It's actually happening, which is really freaking fantastic. And Tamir said from stage, he said, you know, the goal is that we have so much information on you that we can underwrite you and lend you the money that you don't have to go get the SBA loan, or you don't have to go get the hard money loan or whatnot. And so there's two ways I see this play out. One, if you are somebody like a Joe, so you guys may or might not know this, but Joe's actual like where he is like, he and Taylor are killers, is they have a large investment business. So for Joe to be able to have real underwrite him and him go pull out the money and go do a flip or borrow money for a bridge loan or something is like insane.
Yeah.
And then for me as a team owner, I can't tell you how many times people come to me for a cash advance. Spring, I have this deal under contract. I'm struggling. I need some money. Like instead of Spring Bengtzen being the one who's chasing down lending money and having to chase it down, now they have a real wallet that they can go borrow against, have their credit card, and it's no longer me having to go front that money. And so the way that Tamir said it, or maybe it was Pratash from stage, that I thought was actually really cool, is he said, this could actually create predictability for our agent and their income. Because now, like somebody could like, based off of how it's underwritten and whatnot, like, let's just say, and I'll speak for myself, I have some agents that will sell a ton of houses 1 month and then they go in a dry spell. You know, it's ever been there where it's like boom, 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 boom. And so this could create to where they just have that predictable, steady income coming in, because they have been underwritten and they know the cash flow is going to come in. So I think it's really cool. I don't understand all of it other than for me, I was like, dang, it would be really great. Like I'm wanting to go buy a building for my office in Salt Lake City. And Joe, I was like, man, going through the SBA process
sucks.
such a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
When Tamir said, hey, we can underwrite and do better, I was like, oh my gosh, maybe real will be my bank for this, you know?
Well, yeah, no, I think you hit it on the head. I see a couple of use cases. One, as a broker, one of the sad days for me is when an agent hands me a commission advancement form. You're nicer than me, Spring. So like, I don't loan agents money, but if in the past, when they're like, hey, I need I've got a $20,000 commission coming in, I'm borrowing $7,000 and it's 2 points up front and it's 18 to 27% interest. And I'm like, holy crap, dude. Like, all right. And so I sign it and then there's this battle of collection and all this weird stuff. Right. So think of it this way, like most credit card interest rates hover around 22%. So if an agent gets in a bind, like I'm thinking around Christmas time, like let's say there's an agent on my team that, you know, has been in the stock purchase program for 2 years. They've got $20,000 in real stock in their Morgan Stanley account. They get, you know, $1,000 a month in revenue share or something like that. So there's, you know, then the company looks at them and says, and they've got a couple of deals in escrow. The company may say, Billy has a $25,000 line of credit with the company. Now the agent can use their real wallet and take an advancement. There's no points up front. There's no required amount of interest. Like a lot of times, if you've never done a hard money loan, it's 2 or 3 points up front. You have to guarantee 6 months of interest. Your interest rate is somewhere around 14 to 16%. And sometimes there's points on the back end. So like that's a killer. Now this agent's just paying 10% interest for the time they have the money. So if they borrow $10,000 for 2 months, they literally end up paying, you know, what, $900, $1,800 in interest over the course of those 2 months. It's not nothing, but it's not 20% and points up front. Now, that then, to Spring's point, Real's money is being deployed and they're creating interest on their money. So here in November, we're all going to see a stock effect. Now, I would like to say a stock bump. Who knows what it's going to be? But every quarter, a month later, Real has to, because they're a publicly traded company, they have to issue a financial statement. And so now this financial statement will be based on profitability of the brokerage through transaction fees, RAV Share, and you know, miscellaneous joining fees and things like that. And then they'll report Real title, Real mortgage. It's all the holdings of the company. Now, maybe not in the February financial report, but I would assume by April of next year, Real Wallet will have been humming and they will have analytics on interest earned on money lent. So then I don't own shares of Visa that when I use a Visa card and pay interest, that I then get the benefit of the company going up in value because I paid interest. I just pay interest. Where now, as a company, as an individual, if I'm using that line of credit, I pay it back. It improves company profitability. And now that stock I own to justify getting the line of credit in the first place becomes more valuable. That's use case number 1. Use case number 2, to Spring's point, Taylor and I are doing it right now. We found a house, market value somewhere between 550 and 600,000. When you do investing, it sounds sexy to just use your own money, but at some point you just run out of money because there's so many deals that come. You just can't fund everything. So we had a deal where Taylor came to me. He's like, hey man, we could get this thing for 430. We probably have 20 grand in rehab fees. So we're going to be into it for 450. I think we could at worst sell it for 550. After cost, commissions, whatever, we could make $80,000. So we're like, all right, well, where are we going to get the 450 from to do this deal? Because I don't want to take it out of my savings account, right? So we went to Tamir. Tamir's going to give us the 450,000, 10% interest, no points up front. Now, a hard money company would say, cool, we have to pay 2 points up front. Well, there goes $9,000 like that. And then the hard money loan would be 14% interest, and we'd have to pay 6 months of interest. Well, 6 months of interest at 14% would be another 20-something thousand dollars. So we'd be like $30,000 in financing just to and I know that this is a deep dive, but I just want people to understand this. We'd be $40,000 to $50,000 in financing fees. So now if we're going to make 80, it would cost us 40 to 50 to do it. So now our profitability is $30,000. Well, let's run the math and say we keep the 400, let's say 400,000 from Real for 6 months. The financing is going to be $20,000. 10% of 400 is $40,000. We only keep it for 6 months. So it'd be $20,000. So now if we're into it 450, we sell it for 550, there's $100,000 in profit. 10,000 goes to closing costs, maybe 20,000 goes to the financing. We've made 70,000 where we would have made 30. And so like, that's an absolute game changer for anyone in the investment business. Now, you may not be in the investment business. We need to change that, but somebody you're looking to attract will be. And when they understand that they can build up their rating with a company, not based on their credit score, but based on their business profile, investors are going to go crazy for stuff like this. And the best thing, Spring talked about it, all of this improves Real's profitability metrics, which then improve the value of the stock, which as shareholders, that should be something that we're all super obsessed with.
Yeah, and I think that if you're on here and you're like, I don't care about stock, I just care about selling houses, it's great. It still creates the stability in the company to have the revenue to keep on building cool stuff for you to sell houses. So leading that in to the next point of it is Pritesh and those guys talked about like the tech team went from like 6 people to like over 100 and something. Because they're building out tech to help you as an agent sell more homes. So a couple of features is that Leo,
Mhm.
the AI is becoming on your side panel a dashboard, and the AI has been watching every chat, listening to every broker support call come in. It's been watching everything happening at Real, and the AI is going to start becoming a huge factor in it. So a couple of things they talked about, which I don't remember what's coming like now and what's coming in a couple of
Right.
months. But when you get onboarded in the company, immediately when you onboard into your reason, it's going to pump out all of your marketing assets from AI. So you immediately will have I joined Real, all of the resources just done from it. Then it also is going to have from when you take a listing and you put in the MLS, it's going to automatically pump out all of your marketing assets. So it'll just be done.
Instagram posts and
Everything's just done through the AI for you. It's also on broker support. This is what's going to take a little bit of time, but as you upload your contracts, the AI, and they're going to go state by state and have to create this, but the AI will tell you immediately what you're missing, signature, initial, whatever, on your contracts for you to get paid. Some of you guys are waiting for a long time for broker approval. It'll automatically give the broker the feedback of what would be missing for the broker approval. The AI is going to
look through all your documents. What are missing signatures? Where are boxes not checked? Right now, your broker has to do that, which is the worst job of all time. And they're going to make sure that it's all done by AI to say, hey, Tracy, you're missing an initial on page 4 of the RPA. It's like, oh,
yep. Yeah. And then payments, I mean, everything is getting the tech side of everything is going next level to help you with your retail business. He talked about AI for that nobody's going to go download your app. Like nobody's going to go download an agent consumer app, but every single one of us at the company is going to get a phone number. So as you input somebody into reason, or it'll pump out, and Joe, you might have to articulate this a little bit better, but basically I'm gonna have a phone number, Joe's gonna have a phone number, Tracy, Lucy, everybody's had their own phone number that's tied back to Real. And so if you're like, you meet somebody, you text them from that phone number, add them into a group chat, the AI will start nurturing that lead for you and will create that conversation and start sending them properties, different things, so they don't have to download an app. I quite understand it 100%, but
so
concept was super cool on it.
yeah, I mean, for those of us who use, I don't even want to say it because my phone will trip out, but we'll use the name that activates our phone. Like I have it do everything now. And it's like there's times where I'm like, I wonder if I could have it do this. And I'm like, hey, so and so, do this, call this person, text this person. What time is my this? Like, and I just keep stretching the boundaries. And it's like, yeah, it does that. And so now imagine a world in which I meet a client who are like, yeah, I mean, we're thinking of selling and buying, but we're probably 6 months out. Now, imagine I put those clients into my Reason app and I tell the AI bot, hey, they're thinking of buying in 6 months and selling in 6 months. Their address is 123 Main Street. Send them a market report every 3 weeks, updating them on the value of their house, and make sure they're getting every single property that pops up in 89131 from 700 to 1,000,000 with an RV garage. And now I'm just sitting back. And then from me, they're getting a text like, hey, what's up? It's Joe. I just wanted to make sure you saw these 3 houses that just came up. One of them went into contract, but these 2 are available. Not sure if they would work for you because they'll actually learn your voice. Like they'll learn your syntax, the way you speak. And so Lucy just asked, yeah, it will do that. They've got to figure out what the boundaries of it are. But in theory, it's going to do whatever you tell it to do. So if I'm like, hey, Bob just bought this house, I want to send him a report every 6 weeks. Hey, Bob, it's been 6 weeks. Just so you know, these 2 properties came up. Here's a couple of pictures, like, do you have any friends that are thinking of moving into your neighborhood? And it will do all of this for you. And so that to me, again, we've got to see how it goes in practice. But that's where they're like, if you partner with some, Lofty or whoever, and they're like, hey, Tracy, you get your own app, you could have people sign up. their point is, what if we just are honest with ourselves to realize like clients aren't going to, they're really not going to use your app. So now imagine they get a text from Tracy that's like, hey, Lucy, not sure if you know this or not, but you can just text me any question about real estate and I'm going to get you an answer pretty dang quick. And so if you are curious about any house, any housing project, anything, just shoot me a text. I'm not going to make you download some stupid app and I'll give you an answer. And then Lucy's like, hey, Tracy, like I saw a property just came up around the corner from me. Like, do you know how much it's going for? And now the app knows where Lucy lives. So it may go, oh, there's 3 that just popped up. Here they are. Which one were you referring to? And like, it will do all of this for you. And here's the truth. Spring and I, she's wearing a hat. She bangs her forehead against the wall all day, frustrated, trying to get human beings to do certain things. And like, I run a real estate team. And that's just like, if you run a real estate team, you know, you're like, guys, come on, we got to go. We got to do this. How many conversations did you have? How many conversations did you start? How many of this? Robots don't get tired. Robots don't get drunk. Robots don't get divorced. Robots don't go bankrupt. Like, robots don't stop. And so the thing that I'm excited about, while I don't know everything about it, imagine a world where a year from now, I'm training my agents not how to just grind incessantly. They're still going to have conversations. But what if I'm training them on how to use robots to make them uber efficient? And so now their world is just get more people in connection with the robot versus like hammer the phones just to try to be good at it themselves. Like I'm super excited about this. There's so much I don't know, but what I do know is like, I can tell my robot right now, hey, create a picture of me in spring, like hiking Mount Kilimanjaro with real flags, and it will create it within 10 seconds. It's like, that's crazy. But now that's the stupid, like immature use of it that I would use. Now, what if AI can just help us be better entrepreneurs? That's what's super exciting.
Yeah, it is really cool. What else? I feel like there was
Let's talk about the monk. So anyone that was watching it virtually missed out on the monk. I was stoked. How many of you guys, just by a show of hands, like give me a thumbs up if you were able to see it and a thumbs down if you missed out. There must have been something in his contract. Eric's thumbs down. Yeah, a couple of you guys thumbs up. So Camilla said she missed it. So Taylor said that they just cut the feed. So maybe something in his contract. Yeah, there must have been something in his contract that he's like, yeah, I'll speak, but you can't record me or what. I don't know what it was. So interesting. Spring and I got to this conference. You and I haven't really connected in a while. You've been doing a million different things. I've been watching you do a million different things. And so we were both busy. You were busy doing, I was busy watching. And so like we connect and you were just kind of sharing with me, not having any connection to this monk. You're like, all right, I'm doing some things to kind of simplify and get clarity and compress. You get back to Brenna and Brian, and you're like, because somebody like you is always in demand. So then talk maybe a little bit about some of the journey you've been on, Spring, and then how it connects with what this guy was saying.
Yeah. So, all right, we're going to get into my personal life, I guess.
Spring and Joe show.
Yeah, the Spring and Joe show here today. Yeah. So like I got into real estate really super young and didn't necessarily know what I was getting into. And it just popped probably like 6 months in, and it has been nonstop since I was 22. And
So it's been a 7-year grind for Spring.
7 years. Yeah. More like a 21-year grind for Spring. Yeah. And I know, like, I've always gotten my significance from as a child as being an overachiever. Like if I do something, I do it well, all those things.
You didn't come from money.
No. Yeah. So it just was one of those things. But anyway, so over the last probably 6 to 9 months, I've really been like, what do I want to do? Like, what do I find joy in? if any of you guys can relate, the midlife, like awakening, I won't call it a crisis, but the awakening of like, I've got kids that are moving out. I got my last one who just got her driver's license and just all of that. And so it was interesting timing because I've been telling Joe, I'm like, I'm actually going to compress my life this year. I'm getting rid of some business partnerships that are beautiful and amazing, and I love them as humans, but like it's taking where you put energy over here, it takes away from over here. I don't care what
And
it
I'm
is.
not one of those, I'm not one of the partnerships on the chopping block, right? Like I'm
Yeah,
good.
yeah. Nobody's on the chopping block. It's just where do I want to spend my time?
Right.
And yeah, and so and I have some people who are going to be really disappointed. There's some stuff coming out that I'm like, hey, this isn't serving me anymore, and I'm going to be done with it. But with that being said, it's just been a big awareness for me of like, I at the end of the day, there's a limited amount of energy and there's a limited amount of focus. And it's where do I want to put my energy and where do I want to put my focus? And as much as it's been really fun to grow these things, I am excited. Like some of these things I'm going to do are going to explode and I'm going to let a few others go away. So back to the monk. So um,
Because
he,
his concept he started out with, so the one thing was awareness,
yeah,
basically focus. He
yeah,
talked about we all have, and this was sometimes you hear things that are so simple and you're like, dude, I'm such a freaking idiot. Why did it take now it was dope. This
so
guy
good.
he was bald, he had the full monk thing on, he sat cross-legged. It was like everything I would want from a monk. I was so worried this guy was going to come out in an Armani suit or something. And when he came out in full, like he's a monk. I was like, okay, this is dope. So he says, you have a finite amount of energy.
Yep.
And I was like, why am I 45 and just realizing that? Because I try to create energy all the time. I'm like, dude, I'm not feeling it today. I've got to get some energy. He's like, well, yeah, that it doesn't work that way. So you have your awareness, like what you're focused on. You have a limited amount, a certain amount of energy. You've got places to like he said one of his sayings was where your awareness goes, your energy flows,
Close.
which was huge. I don't think he created that, but he
Which we
reiterated
all know, but this is what I thought was really powerful. So here's the thing for those of you guys that were live streaming and didn't see it. We all know where your energy goes, focus flows. Like we know like what you focus on expands. We know
it.
like,
Mm-hmm.
something is going really negative and it just continues to go negative or something's great. We know
Right.
that. But
Right.
what he did that I thought was really powerful to bring it home, Joe, was when he had us like close our eyes,
Mm-hmm.
take a deep breath in, and then he had us think about the last wedding we went to and like who was there. He's like, did you drink a lot? What did the bride's dress look like?
Yeah.
We
The
relived
food.
we relived the
Yeah.
whole wedding. And then there was another thing he had us think about, I don't remember. But what his point of it was is he could literally take us out of that rise event and move our focus
Yep.
to something that was like could have been years ago. The wedding that I envisioned, Joe, was probably 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a long, and I could tell you every detail, right? And so
Yep.
the point of this is he's like, where you can control your focus. So once you start being able to control your focus, is where you can start to really create, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, but to your point, you have a limited amount of energy and a little amount of focus. So where do you want to spend it? And that was back to like me as a human. I'm like, I only have a limited pieces. Like, I'm not going to spend it over here and I'm not going to spend it over here. And this is the one thing he said that I thought was really powerful. He said, if you had, was it 30 minutes or 3 hours? 3 hours.
3 hours. He's like, you're in Vegas. If you're not from Vegas, because obviously my answer would be obvious. If you're not from Vegas, somebody comes in, hey, in 3 hours, you're all going to die.
You're going to die. Today, in 3 hours, you're going to die. What would you do?
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't go stand in line for 20 minutes for that coffee.
Right.
The store that has the 90% off on the drive home, you're not going to
Not going to buy
stop and be
anything.
like, I got to
Yeah.
buy the shit for the 90% off. Most of you are going to go home to your families and spend time with your loved ones. So if that's where your focus, like that's where you would go, then maybe you need to start looking at where your focus is now. And that again, back to where I'm at, like in my personal world, I'm like, man, I've been like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, all right, where is this? Where is the true priority of my life right now?
Yeah.
So he was fantastic. I started following him on the gram. I was like, what programs does he have? Like the thing that was cool about him too is as a monk, like he was actually pretty freaking witty and like a great speaker. you
Yeah.
know? So I was like, it was really, really good. So
Yeah. I called him Monk Sharon Srivatsa.
yeah, you know, what was cool about it too is that, I thought Real did a pretty great job of having a mixture of things, right? Like they had their tech stuff, which at first was a little much for me, to be honest with you. I was like, all right, we get it. Like a half a day of all the cool shit we're doing, you know, or maybe even,
Yeah.
but I get that like they're really proud of it and we need to do it. Um,
Yep.
uh, but I thought they did a great job. I think I saw Jillian's name up pop on here. Like they did a great job with like the different panels and the luxury stuff. They did a great job with like the speakers of like helping you grow different ways you grow your business. They brought in the monk, and then they did a killer white party, which I think to that point too is like, hey, we can have it all. Like we can bring in
Right.
this and let's go add some fun to it. And I was also super impressed that they provided all the meals. Like they did a great job.
The venue was insane. Let me just share let me just share, if I can, these two things that I learned from the monk. So Spring and I took action in different ways. Well, the monk's name was, you'll know it. It's like Deshapani or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so on the monk, so he said, here's an exercise. And now Spring and I manifested this in two different ways. Um, one way that Spring applied what she learned was she changed her flight to get home a little bit earlier to be with her sick daughter, right? Like
I missed the
that's
party.
she,
I'm home.
but
Yeah.
she's got white on today, so she's making up for it. Um, I, while sitting there, like I've been trying to get out of this stupid group chat with a bunch of guys from high school forever. I've literally left the group chat a million times. And like while I was sitting there, I'm like, all right, I'm leaving it for 1,000,001 time. Because he basically said, imagine a world in which you are a gardener and you have all of these garden beds, but you have a finite amount of water. You have one bucket of water. You would choose very wisely which plants you're going to water with the little amount of water you have. So then he got into energy vampires. And he's like, so imagine though that you have these relationships where your bucket has holes in it. And you're like, okay, I only have so much energy and I'm trying to water things that matter, but I've got these vampires in my life that are just sucking water out. So I left the group chat again and they haven't added me back in. So we're on like hour 12, which is great. He basically said one exercise he wants all of us to run through, and I would think this would be great for all of us. List 3 people you want to begin withdrawing energy from. Now, let me just tell you this, guys. Like, I feel like a complete a-hole when I do this because I feel judgmental and I feel rude. Because fact of the matter is, it even happens not just in my personal life, but even in my business world, where I'll go to Whitney and I'm like, Whitney, I just can't spend any more time with so and so. They're just a drain on. Like, I don't know how I describe it. I probably say something rude. But what that is my soul going like, dude, Joe, you're wasting time and energy on somebody that doesn't bring any joy into your world. Now, it's not a service issue. They are a vampire on my time. So list 3 people you want to begin to draw energy or withdraw energy from, and then list 3 people you want to, because so I can't just take the energy back from my toxic homies from high school and then just like watch more Netflix, right? Like I've got to then go like, cool, if I'm not putting energy into them, where then does that energy go? So his advice is take it from vampires and give it to the people that matter. So for me, it's like maybe a little bit more attention on my wife. Yep, that's him. Um, give more energy to my wife, give more energy to my son, be a little sons and daughters, be a little bit more present. Got a daughter that's in Nicaragua teaching English service for 4 months. Like maybe I should spend another 5 or 10 minutes on the phone with her because she's a little homesick, right? So anyways, that I thought that was really good. Spring, we've got 10 minutes. Guys, whether virtually or in person, I would love for some of your guys, raise your hand, we'll unmute you, highlight your video. Love to hear some of your big takeaways. Spring and I think, highlighted ours, but I'd love to hear from some of you guys. So if you're willing to share with us, raise your hand, hop on with us. Let us know what your big takeaway, something that excites you, something you're curious about. Let's hear from you guys.
Yeah, raise your hand or drop in the chat if there's something that you're like, oh yeah. I do want to say on that, I liked that one of the things that he did say was, and we hear this saying all the time, but like be where your feet are. But what he was really actually saying was like that presence, like if you're with your how you can start conditioning and focusing, like if you're with your daughter and you want to spend that time of like actually be present and focused, and like there's nothing more powerful of feeling that like somebody is 100% vested in you or on you,
Yeah.
right? And I just thought that was really powerful because I will admit I'm terrible at it. Like I might be here, but I'm not here. And so I just think that if
Ta-
we could all take that, it would be so powerful.
yeah, we were talking to our wives last night about this, Taylor and I and our wives. And in mid conversation, Taylor hopped on his phone to look something up or and I was like, Taylor's awareness just left us and went to his phone. And like it's just so obvious, right? Like we know we all do it, but it was crazy in the moment of talking about this to see Taylor go whoop right down to his phone. And I even called him out on it, right? I wasn't like being rude, but I'm like, guys, this is an example. His awareness just left us because it and like, dude, I do it to my wife. I do it to my kids. I do it in business meetings. I do it where somebody comes in to talk to me and I'm like, oh yeah, like, and tell me. And like, I'm sending texts on my laptop. And it's like
Yeah.
my awareness goes here and then it goes back there. Because one of the things he was very, very specific about is like, you cannot divide your awareness.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not possible.
It's not possible. Well, I had an experience. I took my agents on a cruise probably 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. And I walked up to one of them in the airport. I saw him at the airport on the way home and asked him a question. We engaged and started engaging in conversation. And he picked up his phone as he's talking to me and he's texting and he's talking to me. And my energy went straight up to like, F you, dude. Like I didn't
Yeah,
say
you're
that,
wasting my
I didn't
time. Yeah.
whatever, but I'm like, you literally started a conversation with me, and now you're 100% disengaged, like just from like he's talking, but you know he's not like, and I instantly like it triggered something in me, and I was like, I just walked away from the combo. I don't even think he
Yeah.
noticed. You know,
Yeah.
I was just like, what's the point of this conversation? My point of sharing that with you is I'm 3 weeks later talking to you guys about this. Like that's how like disruptive like it feels when you're like, hey, I'm talking to you, and and so I think we just need to have the awareness of like be where you are. Maybe
Right.
it's only 10 minutes. Maybe so he actually talked about 2 hours a day with his wife, but it's not 2 hours consistent. He's like, I'm gonna have the 20 minutes with just her and then
Mhm.
another 10 here or whatever. And I was like, it was good. So
I wonder how much this is geeky, but I just wonder how much this awareness issue was an issue 20 years ago. Like in a conversation with you, Spring, I mean, what am I going to do? Pull up a freaking newspaper? Like I would just look at you and talk to you. But now it's like at any given moment, I'm running. And this is why, like with my kids, I hate Snapchat, is I'm like the ability to have conversations with 100 people at once. That's not a good thing. Like you're not really giving, you know what I mean? Like there's just so many challenges there that are challenges now. They're like, it's almost like type 2 diabetes. If you talk to doctors, they're like, well, yeah, that didn't even exist 30 years ago. It's just a modern, it's a plague of prosperity. And
mm,
it's like we have this right in front of us. It's like this everything everything has its virtue and its vice, right? Like
yeah.
our phones are really such a technological blessing. The fact that I can FaceTime my daughter in Nicaragua, the fact that I can now use this to initiate wires for investment deals to provide for my family, like blessing, 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 right? And the vice of like, dude, I'll be talking to my wife and I'm just full on like, dude, I wonder what's going on Instagram. It's like, while I'm talking to her, I'm doing that. Like,
Yeah.
it couldn't have been an issue 20 years ago.
No, 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 no. Think about it. I mean, I remember when I got my first phone line as a sixth grader in my room, like that was
Mm-hmm.
cool, right? Somebody direct messaged me and just said I wasn't at Rise, but my takeaway from this call is essentially doing the baby steps for getting people to join Real. It's one at a time versus trying to get a whole bunch at once. So you guys
100%.
I have a decent sized network. every single one of those people who have joined us has been a one at a time. I've never looked at it as like, I got to go get a big player, or I've got to go, like, it has literally just been a relationship or a conversation that has been like, oh yeah, you should check this out. The point I really want to get across to you too is like, all the things that Real is offering makes it really easy to have the conversation. It doesn't even need to be about revenue share. It could
Right.
be like, have you like, hey, does your brokerage the marketing and the AI and then also the training? We forgot to hit on this. AI has been listening to every single one of Sharon's trainings and creating it, and it's all now being built out in there that you can be like,
I need a deal of the day or whatever.
I need a deal of the day, and it will like pull up your the email for your deal of the day that you can write.
Yeah.
Or I need this for my listing, and it will pull it up. Right. So like there's so much to it that the RAV Share is just an L extra for you. And if they want to participate it, the last thing I want to say on this too, in any brokerage model, EXP, Real, LPT, doesn't matter. 14% of agents participate in RAV Share. 14. So we are very ignorant to go out to the average agent that wants to be at our company and try to push REV Share.
Yeah.
Most people do not believe of themselves as recruiters or as a revenue share component. So again, I have a decent sized world. I don't go out and push REV Share, you guys. If I get on a call with you, I say, hey, Lucy, so great to meet with you today. Tell me, I want to be really cognizant of your time. Tell me what's important about this conversation today. Well, I really understand how Real's broker support works. So I really want to understand how marketing works. So I really want to understand this. And I'm like, cool, tell me what you know about Real.
Yeah. Where are we starting from?
Where do we start from, right?
Yeah.
Half the time, you guys, revenue share is not even a thing. Probably even 3/4 the time. Unless they are a hitter and they're like, hey, I want to understand revenue share. So I really want to make sure you guys like, this is how I'm going to end my part of this, Joe, is that the end of the conference, they had all of the C-suite at Real on stage. And they were asking them questions, and they said, what's the one thing you want people to walk away from or know in the next year? And it was Sharon actually who said this. He said, I don't care if you use everything that Real has to offer, but you need to know about it. Know about what Real has to offer so that you can talk about it, or that people in your ecosystem can know about it. And that was where I was like, oh, you're right. Like, this is just knowing what it offers is going to be the key to this.
Well, and I love that, because here's my thought on this. And one of my favorite church talks I've ever listened to talked about a cruise ship. What is a cruise ship? It is actually a transportation vehicle. Like, there's really not a lot different between a ferry and a cruise ship other than the way it's constructed inside, right? It is illogical. And I would be, if I worked for a cruise ship company and I saw Derek get on the ship with a bunch of ramen and whatever, and then I let him on the cruise ship and he takes it from point A to point B and like eats ramen in his room. The reality is, the reason you're on a cruise ship is because your food is included, your entertainment is included, right? Like, yes, it's transportation, but while going from point A to point B, there's all of these other elements of being on a cruise ship. So if an agent came to me and said, hey, Joe, I just want to go to a place where I could just close my files, I just want to do deals. Yes. And a cruise ship is actually it's an efficient mode of transportation, but if you're just using it to get from point A to point B, you're kind of missing out on the whole point. And so to that point, somebody may not choose to take part in some of the entrepreneurial enterprises that Real offers, but it is our job in service and in support to help you understand what they are. So somebody may just say, like, I hate attraction conversations. I hate inviting my friends to events. I hate inviting my friends on Zoom calls, whatever. I get it. If you choose to not take part in that part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, that's up to you. And then if you're like, I just don't care about stock, I don't care, like, right? And then it gets to the point to where when you boil it all down, it's like, well, dude, you're on a cruise ship. check out a show, like go to the buffet, like hit up some of this stuff, right? And that's really what you're going to see from me over the next couple of months, is just helping people understand the entrepreneurial ecosystem we're a part of. And while they may choose to pieces and parts it together, I'm totally okay with that. But it's more than just a vehicle to do transactions. And if you ask Tamir, like I said, he views Real as a hyper entrepreneurial ecosystem. To call Real a real estate brokerage for him is an insufficient word. That's like calling a cruise ship a transportation vehicle. Like, we are a cruise ship when it comes to entrepreneurialism. Like, there's so much included in this ecosystem that we need to learn to take care of. I got a DM on here as well, Spring. Somebody said, I was talking with a business partner and I realized, and we came to the realization that if every agent in our market brought on one agent every quarter, we would have massive growth. And it's like, and that's not eating an elephant. That's like eating a hot pocket. Like, it's just not an overly complicated thing, but it does fall on Spring and I. It does fall on Derek and Tracy and Lucy and Caitlin. It falls on all of us to educate ourselves, not just in what the offering is, but in how to talk around it, so that we have enough opportunities to create enough conversations, to demonstrate enough value, to encourage someone to take that entrepreneurial leap. I'm grateful that it was introduced to me. Like, we would still be owning our independent brokerage here locally and just grinding, and we'd probably be in a lot of trouble because our freaking market has sucked the last 18 months and it would be really tough. But I'm a byproduct of an introduction. Like, I'm a byproduct of somebody going like, hey, you should check this out. And it took me a while to understand it, for sure. But man, am I grateful I do now.
1,000,000,000%. So guess where my energy needs to go right now? My focus. I gotta go be a mom.
Back to being a mom.
I'm in charge of 17 kids coming for lunch today, so I gotta go get them.
Dang.
Hey, I love you all. If you want to grow, I'm here to be a resource for you. Hit me up, DM me, whatever. Like, I have a team behind that will respond, get you on calendars, whatnot. So I'm here for whatever you need. And watch for an email in the next couple of days. We're going to do a Zoom about agent attraction, how we can give you some more support. And so we're here for it. With that being said, I'm going to go grab some lunch for my peeps. Okay, bye, you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.